From the podcast studio on the third floor of Anderson Hall at UNL's College of Journalism and Mass Communications, this is Keeping It Classy, College Edition. I'm your host, Harmon Johnson. Across the way, McKenna Bliss, and we have another great show lined up for you. This is episode number 4 of Keeping It Classy. We're kind of just keep rolling with this theme of college and college life. If you remember, episode number 1 was college advice from the point of the freshman. Well, this one, as you might have seen in the title, was the college experience from the point of view of the parent. Mm-hmm. And so we've got a couple special guests. We alluded to this last week, but we've got a couple special guests here. And the first one is actually joining us in studio. He was down here for a work-related trip. McKenna, sitting next to you is my father. This is Duane Johnsen. Yay!
Yay!
Welcome to the show, Dad.
Thanks.
Just for reference, Dad just walked, 8 blocks, 10 blocks to get here?
Whatever 9th Street to here is.
Well, this is 17th Street, 16th Street, so
yeah, you walk
I can't do math. I'm a comms major.
I don't know how city blocks even work.
That'd be 7.
Okay, 7.
Thanks.
Thank you. We got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to ask my dad some questions, and then later on, we will be joined by McKenna's mom, Lora Bliss, via the phone. So she wasn't able to be down here. She wasn't down here for anything, but hopefully we can get her in here before you go to UNK.
I don't think that will happen.
No?
No.
Maybe not. But anyway, so Dad, this is your first time on a podcast, right?
It is.
Our 4th time, so don't worry. We've got some questions that we're going to ask you, but first, I want you to describe the whole concept of college, I guess. I always knew I wanted to go to college, but you had a different college experience. So can you just kind of explain that a little bit?
I guess I'm not 100% sure where you're going with that.
Just explain your college. You went to college for basketball, right?
Yeah, out of high school, I went to a junior college for 2 years, played basketball there. Then I transferred to Chadron State College, played a year there before basically stepping away from the game due to the physical abilities that it was a toll. So anybody that is a college athlete, it's a lot more than just showing up and playing the game like you do in high school. So a lot more to it. So yeah, most of my college experience was a couple different small colleges, and that was kind of it.
You correct me if I'm wrong. You didn't actually finish your degree.
I did not. I actually changed majors 3 different times.
Oh, you sound like McKenna now.
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure what I really wanted to do coming out of high school. For me, I had gotten injured both my junior and senior year of basketball and missed most of that. So I'll be dead honest. I went to college to play basketball. That was why I was there. So I had to try to figure out what I wanted to do at that same time. But yeah. I went 4 years of college. I finally stepped away from it and got into the professional world and never went back.
Yeah. Well, you don't always have to finish a college degree. I know we've been talking with my brother just from our personal experience that he's kind of in that limbo zone of he doesn't know if he wants to. You can go anywhere now as a professional, purely professional, without going to school.
Yeah. Your mother is going to be mad when I say this, but she spent 4 or 5 years in college, teaching degree, has taught school for 25, 26 years. I do not have a degree yet. I make more money than she does every year. So you don't have to be. College is a great thing. That's not for everybody. You can do things with the trades and other aspects of businesses that you can thrive in it. So
yeah, my boyfriend actually has 2 degrees. Only took 2 years to complete, and he's going to make more money than I ever will. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, the trades has become a huge part of today's professional industry, but we're here at college, so I guess we made that decision for ourselves.
I just have to get an HVAC degree because
Yeah.
It's looking promising now.
Yeah, there's a lot of jobs out there for the trade schools, but we'll ask a few more questions of my dad here after a quick chat with McKenna's mom. She was able to join us earlier today when we were recording our other episode. Sorry, we record multiple episodes in a week. It's the only way we can do it with our busy schedules. But we were able to chat with Lora Bliss, so we'll send you over to that interview here in just a second. All right, welcome into this next segment here on Keeping It Classy, episode 4. We've got a remote guest here on the phone. Joining us from out in western Nebraska is Lora Bliss. Yay!
Yay!
McKenna, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, this is my mom. So our episode theme this week was like kind of dealing with the parents side of college. So, Mom, one of the questions we have is, what was your idea of college for me? Like, did you have an idea of where you wanted me to go? Did you have kind of a idea what you wanted me to major in?
No, I really didn't, because I didn't know a lot about college. Jessica pretty well had dealt with everything by herself, so I really wasn't very familiar with it. And as far as what you wanted to do, I just wanted you to be happy with whatever you chose.
Aww. My mom's so sweet. Also, Jessica's my sister, by the way. She also went to college, so that's kind of all we had to base college off of, was just how my sister did. So anyways, my next question, what was your biggest worry about me going to college?
Probably the party scene and whether or not you were safe during that. I didn't think you would probably do it, but there's so many dangers out there.
No, there definitely is. And I think that's a big worry for a lot of parents with kids going to college, is like their safety and partying and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I agree.
Totally relevant fear to have. How was the transition like after you dropped me off?
I cried a lot.
So did I.
But I had been trying really hard to prepare myself the whole senior year.
Yeah.
So, but it was hard.
It definitely is.
But the part that's best is the amount of times I get to talk to you helps me a bunch.
Yeah, I call my mom all the time.
Which, that's not a bad thing. We mentioned in our first episode that you know, you kind of want to get that separation, but you also you want to stay in touch. Like it's kind of rude to just, okay, you raised me for 18 years and now I'm done, go away.
I do. I call my mom all the time. But anyways, what's life back home? What's it like now that you're an empty nester for real this time?
Not a lot of difference for me, considering I'm at the store.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. My mom and my dad own a business, so it's, yeah. Even like during high school, I was very independent. I saw my mom obviously like throughout the day, but I didn't spend a whole lot of time with my parents. So yeah, it probably isn't too awful different. Plus, you had experienced empty nesting before you had me, didn't you? I think you did.
No, not really.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah, I guess.
Abby was still.
Abby's my sister.
I think Abby was 15 when we had you, so we still had Abby and and then you.
Nice. I didn't.
See,
the more you know.
So McKenna and I, just for reference, we're kind of on two different spectrums. I'm the oldest in my family, and so you'll hear that throughout the rest of the episode with my dad. But for McKenna, she's the last one. She's it. That's it for them. So I definitely
hope so.
That's got to be kind of an interesting. It's got to be kind of a different feeling, I guess, probably for your mom than my mom. I mean, obviously not all of your siblings went to school, but some of them went military, and that's not easy either.
Yeah, it's not. And I think.
No, actually, I think them going to the military was harder than letting the girls go to college.
I can see that for sure. It would be a lot harder, especially like more worrying about safety, I think, in that aspect.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Anyways, my last question: do you have any advice for any future college parents, particularly like college parents of seniors, do you have?
Yeah, this is where you can leave your mark, Laura. This is
Yeah,
where everyone's
give
going to
us some
listen.
Good advice. Give them some good advice, not me.
Stay in touch. Give them the tools to be somewhat independent, but still close to you. They're going to need you just as much probably as you need them.
I would agree with that. I do need my mommy. Mommy, can you come pick me up?
I think you probably call your mom more than I call my mom, and she's not going to like it when I say that.
I call my mom probably like, well, I don't know, two times a day. Probably.
Laura, how many times does she call you?
At least once, usually when she's driving back from her
Okay.
job to the dorm,
That makes sense.
or if she's from class to her dorm.
That
I
makes
call
sense.
my mom all the time, dude. Most of the time we don't even talk on the phone. It's just like silence, and I'm just. It's awesome. I love calling my mom.
That's awesome.
Yeah, sometimes we don't talk, but we know that we're connected yet.
That's
So
good.
Agreed.
For me, it's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, those are all the questions we had for you. If you have anything else to add.
No, just enjoy college life, have fun, and be safe.
Laura, we really appreciate you for coming on for a little bit. So thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, Harmon.
Everybody, Lora Bliss.
Laura, yay!
We'll be right back with another segment of Keeping It Classy. All right, and again, we'd like to thank McKenna's mom, Laura, for joining us over the
Mom.
phone. That was
Love you,
that was
Mom.
great to hear from her. So now what we're going to do is we're going to ask kind of the same set of questions to my dad here, who I'm sure is just as thrilled to be here as his face tells me.
Well, considering you texted me, 4 or 5 hours ago while I was driving down the road, hey, come stop at the J School and do a podcast with me. Thanks for the heads up.
You know, we need content. We wanted to bring on some more guests, so
I told my mom like an hour before, and she was like, "You want to talk to me?"
So I guess the first part of this interview, McKenna, her mom kind of knew that she wanted to go to the bigger university scene, maybe join a sorority. Obviously, you're not in that yet.
No,
Um,
not yet, and not ever.
And she kind of wanted to do the law aspect. That's obviously changed now too. But her mom kind of knew that. I don't even know if you knew, like, you obviously knew I wanted to do sports broadcasting for the longest time, but I don't, what did you think about, like, when you thought about me going to college?
Like, what was your idea
Yeah.
of his college experience?
Well, I mean, I always knew that you were looking into the broadcasting side of it, doing something sports related, stuff like that. You also had a lot of aspirations of maybe trying to play baseball, and we did a lot of juggling there, trying to figure out what's best as far as going to college and trying to do both or do one or the other. And obviously, we saw several schools when we were doing that. As we were discussing it, obviously, I tried to give you those pros and cons of, especially knowing that I had been through the JUCO level and what you can and can't do, and moving around. I think you finally kind of come to that realization that what you really wanted to do wasn't going to get done as quick doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I still go back and forth today about whether or not I should have tried to do the JUCO ranks, because you play a sport for so long and you want to keep doing it, and you were lucky enough that you got to go do that despite having 2 major injuries in high school. But yeah, the career field that I'm in is not the easiest to go to those JUCO ranks either. So
yeah, no, and there's obviously in the smaller schools, you don't have the broadcasting and the technology, the things that you obviously have here at the university. Even when you were looking around at UNK, you went into there, the amount of things you have available here compared to there is just dramatically different and stuff. So, to be honest, I'm glad you decided to come here versus trying to do something JUCO-wise and then trying to find a way to, hone your skills there where you've had a lot of opportunities here. So,
yeah. So the next question, moving away from kind of that point of view, is going along with it is what were your worries? And I know you kind of share mom's thoughts sometimes. So what were kind of her worries too? I know she's not here to speak for herself, but kind of what were the worries about me going to college?
Well, obviously the big one is financially. I mean, I think that's probably every parent's first worry is how are you going to make ends meet to put your kid or help your kid through school. We pushed the scholarship stuff at you pretty hard and still do. Started, filling them out, trying to create, money, here and there for other things. But yeah, financially is probably the number one worry of any parent, that type of deal. The second thing is, how far away do you go? And what happens if you're not comfortable and don't want to be that far away? I mean, speaking, I guess, a little for your mother when you were looking at K-State, I know in the back of her mind, obviously she went to the University of Lincoln. So, she was more, hey, I'd rather you stayed closer. She would have supported that, but I guarantee in her mind, she was hoping that would not come true just because of distance and some of those. So.
Well, and I mentioned in our last episode, talking about college expectations and touring and stuff like that, that I had never expressed interest for for media-wise, I had never expressed interest for Oklahoma, which is a big media one, but I did kind of look at Mizzou, but we never toured, obviously. We only ended up touring K-State, Lincoln, UNK for that major specifically. So, yeah, I kind of knew, too, that was kind of her big worry was distance. But, yeah, what now, going kind of off of the worries, what was the transition like after you I know you're not quite as sympathetic, but after move-in day was over, what was it like? Because, obviously, we felt different. So what was it like from the parents' perspective?
I hate to say it, it was nice to know you got settled in.
Oh,
type
okay.
of deal.
Okay, I was going to say, I was like,
it was nice to have some peace and quiet.
that was very true. The fact that, me personally, I didn't have Harmon, hounding me of like, Dad, let's go do this. Dad, let's go do that. It was actually kind of nice not having that. But knowing when we left on move-in day, you seemed like you were kind of well adapted at that point. Mm-hmm. I'm sure if you ask your mother, she's going to say something different. She, bawled her eyes out for a little bit type of deal. That's, it's one of those, she misses you every day type of deal versus I'm a little different on that respect that I can, I don't have to have that personal contact every day.
Well, and I know Mom gets kind of jealous because a lot of the questions that I have, financial and stuff like that, I end up shooting your way. But yeah, I will say personally for me, it was that kind of uneasy feeling that first couple nights of this isn't normal. Like you probably didn't go through that, but I'm sure everyone else did back home.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not 100% sure where you're going with that.
When you get dropped off at a summer camp, you're like, oh, this is weird, Yeah. But
and at a summer camp, okay, give it a couple, 2 or 3 days, and you're going to be
right.
You're going to be back. Obviously here, you're gone for
stuck here.
Yeah. Fortunately, you had a vehicle. I mean, there's other kids that they literally you have a roommate that literally dropped off, and they can't just go someplace.
My roommate, he's plus 3 more hours from where we live. So I mean, he only went home for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for winter break, and then for spring break. I just made a weekend trip back home a couple weeks ago for Easter, last week, I guess, when we're filming this for Easter, and it worked out fine. But there are those people, especially like foreign or coastal kids that can't do that. So I can't even imagine. I have the security knowing that my family and the families I know, like McKenna's family, they're close. They're not close by any means, but they're close.
We're close enough to be able to be helpful if need be. And,
mm-hmm.
from my my jobs that I do that you knew I would be in Lincoln sometimes too. So I think that probably gave you a little bit of peace of mind knowing that, hey, when are you coming this direction for a weekend? That type of deal. So I think that probably helped you a little bit knowing that's there.
Mm-hmm.
So, your mother gets a little, I think, jealous that I do come down to Lincoln and see you on a weekend.
She's the only one that's made one trip down. I know you've made multiple trips for work, but she was here a couple weeks ago for a couple different things around the Lincoln area. That's the first time she's been able to see me at college besides volleyball day when you all came down. So, yeah, definitely a little different. The next question that we kind of thought of was, what is life like back home? I know you kind of touched on that with the transition period, but like for McKenna's parents, it's only her parents now at their house. They're empty nests now. But for you've still got my brother and my sister, both of whom are still high school age, and they. My sister, she's not even in high school yet. So, I mean, there's a long way to go from there.
Yeah, I think, for us or for me personally, obviously, with you being down here, that has allowed us, I guess, a little more time to focus on your brother and sister on some of their things. You were very, very involved in so many aspects that it seemed like we were juggling our schedules all the time, do stuff. In all reality, it's kind of a little nicer now. I don't want that to sound bad.
You're not running around chasing me.
No, and obviously your brother's, working and that type of stuff, and he's not involved in really anything. Your sister's in junior high, so there's a lot less activities. It's I hate to say it, it's been nice to not
That's okay.
every night feel like you're going someplace.
Well, and
I think my parents definitely feel the same way, especially like financially, because I cost some money when I was in high school, but now I'm doing it all by myself. So I think I give my parents a little peace of mind moving out.
Well, and I think, you guys as kids don't realize how much money we spend on gas, food, just all those things. You go to ball games, you're paying to get in. You're it's a constant, you're constantly spending money on something. And, not that we're not now, obviously college is not.
No, it's
It's not cheap. I mean, it's so much more expensive now than what it was when I went to school. And I was just talking to somebody the other day about, scholarships, and it's crazy, the amount of money that it costs to go to school.
Let me ask you this, because I know you have the experience with it. Obviously, you drove bus for our high school to keep up with all of our events and not having to plan around that with, you obviously had to plan with your other job, but what was that perspective like? Because Mom, she didn't get to go to near as many things because you were always the parent.
Yeah, I guess I had a little bit of an advantage there when it was brought to me. I think you were about a 5th or 6th grader about driving bus, and my first thought was, "Is why the heck would I ever want to drive a bunch of kids around and deal with them all day long?" In the long run, it was nice because I virtually went to almost every event you had because, I don't want to say I cheated the system, but obviously I got paid to go to your guys' events. I mean, what better way to do it? And yeah, you're right. Your mother missed out on a few of them. She did a pretty good job of getting a lot, but I got to go to every field trip, every, basketball game for the most part, every, cross country.
FFA.
FFA. I mean, it's as far as if a parent was listening, you got little kids that are coming up. Hey, if the school's needing somebody, what a great way to get to go do events with your kids. I mean, that goes a long ways.
Schools are always looking for transportation, but not just bus drivers, vans and stuff like that. But that's definitely something that I think you took advantage of, especially knowing with me as the oldest in our family, you would be able to do my brother and sister too when they had events. Obviously, you're not doing near as much now because you're driving professionally. But you probably just took advantage of that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I guess in my mindset, I knew, I hate to, there again, I don't want this to sound bad, but I knew you were safe You know, your brother and sister were safe because I was driving.
Right.
Not that other bus drivers aren't good bus drivers.
Yeah.
But, you know, I knew what I was doing with it, and there was that peace of mind that, you know, I don't have to worry about who's driving or where they're going, and if the weather's bad, you know, it's all on me. So I guess, and I think that helped your mother with, you know, a lot more peace of mind that, hey, you know, I'm the one driving, and, you know.
Going off of kind of sticking with the fact that my household, we're still pretty full, obviously. Do you ever, like, I know my brother's not a huge, like, worker. He started doing actual work now, but do you ever kind of miss the fact that you had, like, I mean, I helped you with a lot of stuff. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I helped you with a lot of stuff, and you're doing a lot of it now on your own, I assume.
Well, I think I probably did a lot of it on my own anyway.
Well.
You know, I mean,
All right.
yeah. No, I mean, it was nice having another hand around, you know, bringing wood up to the house, scooping snow, whatever. You know, obviously, the more hands on deck, the easier things are. So being down a body, sometimes that does affect things. I did notice that Christmas lights are still up, and you haven't taken them down since you put them up.
Hey, when I left, it was still Christmas time. I came back. The only time I've been back since was spring break and Easter.
And he was, home for Easter. He had time to do it.
You could have done that.
All right.
I saw your car.
It was fairly nice
You were there
out.
when I was there. You could have done it.
Of course. Great. Now it turns into... anyway, moving away from that, the next question, what is your advice for a parent, maybe like the class of 2024, anyone coming up? What is your advice for a parent, you know, obviously either preparing or once your kid's in college? You know, I'm your first one, so obviously you can speak from the first time experience. We kind of got the multiple experience with McKenna.
Yeah, no, I would say, you know, a parent that has a kid that's graduating this year, you know, if your kid wants to go visit a college, go do it. No matter where it's at. If you've got the ability to let them go visit colleges, the more you can see, the better informed you are, the more, I suppose, the better decision you're going to make, if that makes sense. There's a lot of things that you can see online or get phone calls, but until you walk on a campus and see the campus and see the atmosphere, you know, make sure they're seeing as many things as they can, you know, to help them with that decision. I know, McKenna, you're headed to UNK next year.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
only toured one campus, and I wish I would have taken the opportunity. And it wasn't my parents; it was me. I was just decisive and just wanted to go. But I wish I would have taken that advice.
And that would be, you know, obviously when I came out of high school, like I said, I went and played basketball. I went one place. I had an opportunity to go play. A coach was taking a shot on me because I hadn't really played for 2 years, and so I didn't go visit. I had an opportunity to explore possibly a baseball scholarship, but I hadn't played for 3 years in that, and you know, I didn't even take a look at that. I had one thing, and that was it. So watching Harmon progress through those different colleges, I knew when we came to Lincoln, there was no question where he was going, and that was his last visit. So he had already seen a JUCO, another D1 school, D2 school, you know, different environments, and I think that probably because, correct me if I'm wrong, you were pretty set on Kearney to start with.
I was, actually. The story behind that is I worked with a UNK student during the summer with a baseball team, and I saw he was able to call these games during the summer while he was still in college. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And he was kind of pushing that on me a little bit. He wasn't like recruiting me or anything, but he definitely had a little influence on that. I knew they had a program where you could do stuff. I also knew that UNL had, you know, this program. I obviously didn't know much about it from the website, but yeah, I was pretty set on Kearney. One, because it was closer to home than Lincoln is. It's, you know, cuts the drive time in half.
It's cheaper.
And it is cheaper. It's the cheapest college in Nebraska, actually, like major college. But I will say, I've been on UNL's campus a couple times for football games and stuff like that. But when we took our official tour, I saw like a completely different side that I didn't even know existed. And I think that's a big thing to push for like generation college students. Like if the parent is a diehard fan of a sports team, go visit the campus on a tour, because the campus you see on a game day is completely different from the campus you see, day to day.
Yeah, they make sure of it too. They make sure that stadium's looking peachy clean.
Yeah, and we came down, and really, when you come and visit, it was
winter break.
I think it was winter break.
It was still winter break.
Campus was pretty quiet here.
Yeah.
Which, if there's another thing, I would say if you can visit, don't visit during a break.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go see it as campus is, because that could make a huge difference in, obviously I'd done some field trips in this area and have been around the campus, so I knew that day, and the day we looked, it was, 10 degrees out.
Oh, it was cold.
It was miserable, but...
well, and for us, just a quick note on that visit is we toured K-State the night before. We left at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, because I had a basketball game that Tuesday night, and I had to work it in so that I wouldn't miss that I would miss practice, but not a game, because we had Tuesday, Friday. And the only time it really worked for me to visit before like all the scholarship stuff was due was a Tuesday, Wednesday or a Wednesday, Thursday between that Tuesday, Friday game. And so we drove all the way to Manhattan, got there at 3 o'clock in the morning, did the K-State visit, came up here, and then did the UNL visit, went back, made it back in time for practice, and then played the game the next day.
That's crazy.
And don't forget, you thought you needed to watch a women's basketball game when we got here, too.
Yeah.
So we did that, too.
But that was a good women's basketball game. But anyway... Yeah, that we made it work in the break, because that's when it worked for us. But that I do agree with that if you can visit during the time when everyone's here. I know now our dining hall where we go, Cather, is one of the busy ones on like the campus visit days, because it's the newest, it's the nicest, and me and McKenna are always like, oh crap, here come the new students. But a lot of students think that way, but also they're like, oh, I remember doing this a year, 2, 3, 4 years ago.
No, and as far as, one thing that we looked at, or, you looked at, you had a couple different scholarships. You passed, I guess is what you would call it, on basically a full ride scholarship at UNK, which you don't have here. But, the one thing I think we told you is you make the decision on where you want to go. We'll figure it out type of deal. Well, I know there's, parents and people out there that, we can't afford it type of deal.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to go to the JUCO or whatever. And I know that's tough, but I think in that same respect, you've got to really have that heart to heart with your kid and figure out how can you make it work, because it can't just be about finances, because if it's just about finances, you're probably going to end up in a place you're not happy and you're not going to thrive from it.
Yeah.
So
well, I could say that was my big concern. Obviously, you mentioned I had that basically full ride. That's actually kind of what McKenna's on here at UNL that I got at UNK. And that was a big reason why I was still kind of leaning towards UNK, is because it's like, oh, it's going to be so nice not having to pay for all this. But as soon as I came here, and this is not my pitch for the college, this is just what happened, is I was like, I can't go anywhere else. This is where I fit, and I as a freshman, and I'm an ambassador for the College of Journalism, I get to see a lot of prospective students and their families, and that's one of the big things that I kind of push is, if you like it here, you've got to do your best to try and make it work. I was actually doing a tour with a kid yesterday and her mom, and they asked us multiple times, like, well, what kind of scholarship opportunities are there? Because the only way I'm going to be able to send them here is if they get a bunch of scholarships, because we can't afford it. And, that's the unfortunate part with college now, especially from the parent perspective, is, either you're going to pay a lot of money out of pocket, or you're going to have to help us sign up for all these student loans that then we're going to have to pay once we're graduated.
Well, that's kind of how I was too, is that like you said, I'm on a full ride here, but since I got that full ride, I was like, oh, well, I guess I can't go anywhere else. Like, I have a full ride here. Got to go here. And come to find out, I hate it here. And sorry, but I don't like it here. It's not the college for me. I need a smaller atmosphere. So at this point, I would rather pay full tuition, like not make my parents pay, like me pay full tuition to go to Kearney because I know I'm going to like it there,
Right.
than go here anymore and have a scholarship. So I definitely agree with that point of don't let the scholarships dictate where you're going to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because you're not going to be happy if you're push yourself into some place you don't want to be.
Yeah.
You might think, oh, well, I'll slowly fit into that situation. And if you don't, your grades are going to suffer. Your attitude's going to suffer. And you're really going to start questioning, am I doing the right thing? And I know you've had the whole, what major should I be in? That's bad enough. That's hard.
That's hard.
When you don't know for sure what you want to do and you're trying to figure out, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
Right. Yeah.
And then you add in all the other stuff and then if you're not happy, it's tough. Yeah. So,
it is.
You were asking, talking to a parent now, if you're a parent and you got a kindergartner, put money away now.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly.
There's all kinds of ways to save money, whether it's just opening up a savings account and throwing $50 a month in. Whatever. Nest is the Nebraska savings account. Harmon was fortunate you got a scholarship. That's what prompted us to start that. But you were what?
I was in 6th grade, or I was in 7th grade because it was a writing prompt from an English class that I got like $2,000 for writing an essay about why I wanted to go to college in 7th grade. And, that's obviously, that scholarship is an actual bank account that grows over time with interest. Obviously, it's not a lot, but that account helped my family pay for some of my freshman year. Yeah,
and once that account got us started, we started throwing some dollars in it every month out of a paycheck and started adding to it. If I had to do it again, I would be throwing a heck of a lot more money to it, or just like I said, some kind of, $50, $100 a month, and if you did it as school started as a kindergarten, first grade, or whatever, what a difference that would be. Mm-hmm. And that would be the thing I would tell parents. If you got somebody young, whether it's kindergarten, first, second, third, whatever, start putting some money away. Mm-hmm. Now's the time, not wait till, I got to see where they're going to go to college or what kind of scholarship you're going to get.
Yeah.
Even if they don't go to college, like that could be a down payment
that's what I was
going to
say.
You got to be a little careful on where you're putting it. The nest.
You have to use that in education.
To a point, it's got to be some education. You can pull it out. The way I understand it, you could pull it out, but you're gonna suffer some penalties, just like a IRA or something like that you take out early. Those type of deals. But like I said, open up a second savings account. Just start. $50, $100, whatever.
Because you're never, in today's college environment, you're never going to pay for all of it with your own money.
Well, even if you have full ride scholarship, McKenna, you got your schooling paid for, but you still have gas.
Yeah.
If you want to go do something, you're paying that. The scholarship doesn't pay for that.
No, and I do struggle a lot. And that's kind of something I realized in college is how much my parents actually did pay for. I was like, oh man, paying for my own gas, paying my car payments.
I hate looking at my credit card statement with gas.
Statement. I look at all those things and I'm like, now imagine, McKenna, your parents were paying house payments on that. Your parents were paying for the business. Your parents were paying for all your sports. And I was like, whew. Yeah. I don't want to have a kid. Oh my goodness, it's expensive. But coming to college has given me a newfound sense of appreciation towards how much my parents did.
And that's what I was talking about earlier. Is you guys don't realize how much money we spent as parents for just, it's volleyball season, I need shoes. It's basketball season, I need another pair of basketball shoes. $100 here, $100 there, it adds up. And it's, I would hate to go back and look and see how much money I spent.
Yeah.
I would not want to know. I would not want to know.
Yeah. Better leave that to the past. So we'll transition into our last little segment here on the Parents Edition, kind of for the college show. We have some college student advice for our parents, and feel free to chime in if you agree, disagree, something like that. But the first tip that we have for our parents after we've learned here the last 6-7 months
Yeah. How
is, stay in touch, but also remember that we're in college. We can be busy depending on what we want to go in, and sometimes it's just oh shoot, I forgot to call home this week or something like that.
Yeah.
I know my mom personally, she doesn't feel like I call enough, and I apologize for that. But most of the time when I'm calling, it's either like an issue or something like that. Like I kind of just forget that I can call just to call. You know.
And I would say that's probably a little bit dependent on each kid and their relationship with their parents and stuff like that type of deal.
Yeah.
Harmon calls me. My phone rings a lot, and usually it's Vivian that picks it up. Now that's kind of become
Vivian's
a
my
little bit,
sister, by the way.
Yeah, that's kind of become a little bit of a joke that she hears the phone ring and it's his, and she just comes running and picks it up no matter what, because I've handed it off to her a few times and that type of deal. But I mean some parents, your mother would love it if you called every single day.
Yeah.
That was how she was brought up. She talked to her parents,
Which is great.
literally every day.
Which is great.
I don't want to talk to you every day.
Hard truth.
I'm not a chit chat. Call me when you need some advice or something. But I don't want to talk to you every day, and I certainly don't want you to call me at 11 o'clock at night when I'm in bed because I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Harmon is bad about that.
That was on me. That one was on me. Second tip here that we have for our parents. This one kind of portrays to us more than probably McKenna's family, but it's a learning experience.
Oh no, it was definitely a learning experience.
Really,
for my parents.
it is. It's a
my
learning
mom-
it's a learning experience for both the parents and the kids. So go ahead on yours and then.
Well, it was like my mom said. My sister did everything for college herself, and that's kind of how I'm doing it too. Is like, I'm not really getting that much advice on college from my parents because my dad went to trade school, and that was forever ago. So
Well, and a lot of your siblings went military as well.
like all my siblings, not all of them, a lot of them did go military or just didn't go to college at all. So really the only experience that my family has is my sister and me now. I don't remember if my other siblings went to college, but I guess it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's definitely a learning experience for both parents and child.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things, probably one of the biggest advices I could give right now to a parent that is starting a kid into college. Make sure you know what's going on. Deadlines. We ran into obviously a situation with Harmon and housing that he didn't get an email in the right spot, and we've been dealing with well, what are you going to do about housing next year? Fortunately, things worked out. Usually do, but kind of know some of those hard deadlines, winter scholarships, forms due. Something to help them, remind them to constantly make sure everything is going, because there's a lot of little things that happen that you don't realize.
I wish I had some of those reminders, but I don't blame my parents either.
So
our third piece of advice would be, or like a tip, I guess. Letting go is hard, but it's kind of necessary for the child.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good one. I've always had a pretty good connection with both my parents, just because we did a lot of stuff together. But it was hard that first couple of nights to be like, I'm not gonna, go tell them goodnight or say, talk to you later before going to bed. That was just a big change.
Yeah.
Well, you guys touched on a little bit on your other podcast about not calling home that first week and some. I think that's a great piece of advice, because if you're gonna spend 20 minutes, a half hour, an hour, whatever, every night calling your parents, you're going to have trouble transitioning away from it. You've got to be able to, and that might sound cold and harsh, that, a piece of advice I was given is basically kind of let your kid have that first month to themselves and try not to interject anything if you could help it. And obviously there's things that happen, for me, sometimes I'm coming this way. Hey, I'm coming. Is there something you need? Things like that. But, you have to kind of separate it
Yeah.
and let you guys become adults to a
Yeah.
point.
Well, and going off of that, the next tip that we have here is allow us to make mistakes because those help us grow the most. Obviously, for some of us, if we come to college and we're driving around, Lincoln or a bigger city that a lot more universities are in, we might have our first fender bender, blown tire. I drove by a student that had UNLPD help them change a tire the other day because they probably never had to do that on their own.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's a big mistake like spending a boatload of money or something like that, then you kind of have to call us out for it. But some of those mistakes, that's definitely necessary.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. Is you have to learn a little bit on your own. You have to be able to problem solve without calling mom and dad and saying, well, what do I do? You know what?
Yeah.
You have contacts at any school you go to. It sounds like the university has a lot of contacts, whether it comes to medical, financial, your advisors. Sounds like there's a lot of people that are willing to help.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying every school is that way that has that many, but you need to be able to, hey, I got to pick up the phone, send an email to somebody and ask the question.
Right.
We had some issues just with your scholarship and money. It all worked out, but it didn't make sense when we were looking at it. And basically I said, you need to contact your financial person. I didn't say I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
You need to do it.
That's kind of how my mom was too. Like, she's like, no, you have to make doctor's appointments. You have to make dentist appointments. You have to go to the mechanic by yourself. And I'm
Right.
like,
Well, and we touched on that first episode that like it was weird, going to Walmart to buy something necessary, and not asking for permission or something like that because that's how it is.
Yeah, I think the point there is you also have to know what's necessary and what.
Right.
I suppose in some kids' situations, parents say, the money flow is better type of deal, and it's not a big deal to spend, $50 on this shirt or whatever, buy a coat.
Right.
I mean, obviously the kids need to be able to decide what do they really need this? Or
right.
Is this a want or a need?
yeah.
Type of deal. And you have to have that boundary of kind of that conversation, I guess. And
Yeah, definitely.
Our last tip here, I'm probably not the best example of it because I see you, it feels like every other week, but it's come visit, but not too much.
Well, I guess I think I wrote this one down, but my parents haven't visited me once in college.
No.
Thanks, Mom. But anyway, I was envisioning, like, imagine if your mom came down every single weekend and she was just hanging out in your dorm.
Right.
Like she lived there.
Well,
like, no.
some of these kids from Lincoln that go home every weekend.
Like, I don't know. You gotta have time by yourself in your dorm, and your parents need to have time by themselves too. That sounds awful, but it's true. You gotta learn how to grow apart from each other because one day they won't always be there.
Right.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. That, and yes, I do see you a little more because of a business related situation. I end up in Lincoln on a Friday night, a little time. But on that same side, we don't. Usually, it's I come, maybe give you something, have a quick bite to eat, whatever. We don't spend a lot of time together, in that same respect.
Yeah.
So usually I'm here with something else, and if I wasn't coming for another need, I certainly wouldn't be here. I would not be driving down here.
Yeah, it's not like you're coming down here just to come see me. And it's the same way with the trip Mom took a couple weeks ago. Yeah. She had some stuff to do. Now I'm sure like my sister and brother, they probably want to come down here and like spend the night or something, but that's just not feasible.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a good tip for parents to learn. I know it kind of sounds weird coming from two college students, but we've kind of learned this through our experiences. I think, the fact that you're down here every couple weeks, it's helpful because like I hope you remembered to bring my contact.
I did.
Yes. Because I'm almost out. And so that's nice, not having to mail it or something like that. But at the same time, you're going to be in town all day tomorrow, but I'm probably not going to see you except for a couple hours, you know?
Yeah, no, I've got other things going on. I mean, we're not hanging out. If we see each other, we see each other, but there's no even guarantee that I'll even see you tomorrow,
right.
Depending on how the schedule is and stuff like that.
Right.
So, but yeah, and I guess I went to a school that was 100 miles away from where I grew up. Now, obviously, I went and played basketball. I didn't have time to. I couldn't go home.
Yeah.
You know, I had practice. I had this. I had whatever. I think one thing I think parents need to. Doesn't matter where your kids going to school. They need to have that conversation. Is, you know what, you need to stay at college over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come home every weekend. I mean, unless there's an absolute need for it. For you got to help with something at home.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
kids need to spend a few weekends trying to figure out what, whether it's sitting in a dorm room twiddling their thumbs, but they need to figure out how to handle a weekend without, mom and dad telling me what to do next.
Well, and like the first weekend I've been home was Easter weekend. That was the first true weekend that I had been home. There were some breaks that were built in that went over the weekend. Like fall break is 2 days of the week and then the weekend. But that Easter was the first time I'd been home on not a break. And, I considered it a couple of times like, oh, let's just go home for the weekend and not, have to do anything. But at the same time, it's like, what am I going to do at home when I could be doing stuff here, stuff like that. And I guess it depends on how involved you are. Like, I know you went back home, McKenna, a couple times for medical and stuff like your braces, stuff like that.
And I speech judge, so I went back home to do that.
But it's not like, again, you were going home for actual reasons. You weren't just going home for the heck of it.
I've never went home just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do.
And there's some kids that, when they get out of class on Friday, they go home for the weekend as if there's something different at home.
Yeah.
Well, and I almost had my spring schedule or my fall schedule for next year. I could have had it where I didn't have anything on Fridays. It's like, oh, that makes it a little more easy if I want or need to go home. But then right before I registered, I was like, you know what? I'm going to add this class on Friday because, number one, it's one class. It's not going to be a big deal. And two, I don't need to go home every weekend. There's no reason. I'm spending a tank of gas to get there and another one to get back, maybe more, depending on how the weather is. Mm-hmm. And for kids that live in or around that same city, like, even I know people from Omaha that are like, oh, I'll go home a couple nights during the week. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Well,
and if it's just to go home to see mom and dad or see their brother and sister, that's nice. Mm-hmm. But on that same respect, you can make a phone call, FaceTime, whatever, if you need to actually see them. Yeah. But you need to be able to start adapting to that transition to the next phase of your life, because the odds are you're not going to probably live in the same town and, next door. I mean,
well, once you get that full-time job, you can't go home all the time.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot harder to do that. So we'll transition now into our last little segment here. I don't know if you've kept up with the podcast at all, but every week we do a film or a show of the week. So we've got ours kind of picked out. If you want to think of one while we do ours and share a film of the week that people should watch just for whatever reason, feel free. But McKenna, go ahead and start us off.
So this one's a kind of a newer movie. I don't remember when it came out, but I chose the movie Migration. It's about this little family of ducks.
Oh,
and
I've seen the trailer.
They never have migrated, and because the dad's like just way too scared to like let his kids migrate.
Well,
whatever.
Ducks aren't migratory really either. Some of them are, but
yeah, they are.
Really?
Yeah.
Am I just okay? Anyway.
Anyways, and finally they are convinced. The whole family is convinced to go migrate, and the dad has a lot of trouble like letting his kids like fly alone, whatever. So it kind of just fits the whole like college theme of, being able to let your parent or your kids go a little bit. Yeah. So I chose a little kids movie.
Mine's completely different. I didn't really come into this thinking about it because I thought of one for the other episode, but not this one. But after kind of sitting here, twiddling my thumbs, deliberating, I know it's not the most family friendly, but go watch Family Guy to see a dysfunctional family.
Oh yeah.
That way you can not be that, because some of the things they do is like, I would never want to do that. And there are some circumstances where some families are like being rude to each other. And then like if you go off to college, you don't want to have that as your last memory as a family.
Yeah.
My family, I was kind of blessed to have 3 weeks into school, or 2 weeks, I guess. They came back for that volleyball day celebration. So that was kind of our last full family thing that wasn't move-in day.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Family Guy. I've watched every episode, so I guess there's my push for it. But you got some? Nothing?
Not Family Guy, I can tell you that. Yeah.
Anything watched recently? I know you don't get a lot of time.
Yeah, I can't say that I really sit down and watch movies anymore, or really a ton of shows.
But fire pit season coming out, you can go sit by the fire.
Yeah, no, it is definitely getting to that point where it's time to crank up the TV outside and sit and watch some things. Yeah, I guess I don't know of any like recent stuff.
It could be old.
I think kind of one of my favorite movies is The Hunt for Red October.
Oh,
It's one of those.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. It comes on, I can stop and watch that.
Yeah.
Even though I've seen it probably 100 times, type of deal. It's just, if you got a good favorite movie, watch it.
Watch it.
If nothing else, it gives you that relaxing into your day or whatever.
And that's nice for when you go to college, put on your comfort movie.
Yeah.
Or when you leave, you drop your kid off at college, go watch your comfort movie.
Yeah. I sat down and watched a movie the second night here on campus.
I did too.
So, well, that about concludes the college experience from the parents' perspective episode here, episode number 4. Again, we recorded our episodes in pairs again, so we didn't plan for the next one. So, to be determined on what'll be coming on the next episode. But we'd like to thank, again, Lora Bliss for being able to join us over the phone. And I'd really like to thank my dad for coming in on short notice. Obviously, I mean, you were driving all day. You're probably tired. You're probably ready to go lay down in your bed at your hotel. But yeah, just thanks for coming in. Thanks for the advice. Hope whatever viewer eventually sees this has the opportunity to maybe take it to heart. But yeah, we appreciate your time. So that about wraps up our episode here, episode number 4 of Keeping It Classy. I'm Harmon Johnsen, McKenna Bliss across the way. We will talk to you in episode number 5. Until then, have a great week.